Tonight, as the world grows quiet and the body prepares to rest, you stand at a sacred doorway. One foot is in the waking world, the other in the invisible realm where habits are rewritten, wounds are softened, and time loosens its grip. Most people cross this doorway unconsciously. They fall asleep carrying the weight of years, regrets, labels, and fatigue. As the day dissolves into night, the mind undergoes a quiet transformation that few people ever notice. The sharp edges of thought soften, the constant commentary begins to slow, and the walls that normally guard the subconscious start to thin. This moment, just before sleep, is not merely a transition into rest. It is a sacred interval when the deeper mind opens its doors without resistance. Throughout the day, the conscious mind argues, judges, resists, and filters every impression. It decides what is true, what is false, what is acceptable, and what must be rejected. But as sleep approaches, this vigilant gatekeeper grows tired. Logic loosens its grip, the mind becomes receptive, almost childlike, willing to accept whatever is gently placed before it. In this receptive state, thoughts no longer remain superficial. They sink. A casual idea during the day may float away, but a thought held before sleep descends into the subconscious like a stone into still water, creating ripples that travel far beyond the surface. This is why the emotional tone of your last waking moments matters more than the events of the entire day. A single fearful thought before sleep can echo through the nervous system for hours, shaping dreams, tightening muscles, and influencing how you wake. In the same way, a calm, intentional thought can soothe inner unrest that has resisted effort for years. The subconscious does not understand reasoning or effort. It understands repetition, emotion, and imagery. Before sleep, all three converge naturally. The breath slows, the body relaxes, and attention turns inward. In this state, even a whisper becomes a command. Whatever the mind hears now, it accepts as instruction rather than suggestion. It does not question whether the thought is practical or logical. It simply begins to organize the inner world around it. This is why unresolved worries often grow stronger when carried into sleep, and why gentle affirmations whispered at night can slowly reshape confidence, health, and emotional balance. Ancient traditions regarded sleep as a daily return to the source, a rehearsal for letting go. The moment before sleep was treated with reverence, because it was understood that consciousness, in its loosening, becomes extraordinarily creative. Habits are quietly rewritten here. Old impressions stored in the nervous system begin to reorganize themselves according to the final impression of the day. When the mind repeatedly enters sleep with tension, the body learns tension as normal. When it enters with gratitude or peace, the body learns ease as its natural state. This is not a matter of belief but of sensitivity. If you observe closely, you will notice how the mind absorbs impressions more deeply at night. A single sentence read before bed can linger for days. A soft image can reappear in dreams. A calming rhythm of breath can carry into the night, regulating the heart and quieting the brain. The subconscious listens most before sleep because, at that moment, it is not divided. It is whole, open, and undistracted, ready to receive whatever seed you choose to plant in its depths. Most people believe time moves only in one direction because their awareness is tied to memory. They remember events, attach emotions to them, and then call that accumulation age. The body accepts this story without question. Every memory reinforces a timeline, and every timeline strengthens the belief that life is a forward march toward decline. But awareness itself does not move in this way. It does not age, does not accumulate, does not deteriorate. It simply witnesses. When you begin to live from awareness rather than memory, time loses its authority over your inner life. Memory is a record of experience, not the source of identity. Yet most people mistake the record for the self. They say, I am tired because I am this old, or I cannot change because too much has happened. These conclusions arise not from reality, but from memory repeating itself. Awareness, when observed directly, is always fresh. It exists only in the present moment. When you rest attention in awareness, even briefly, the weight of years dissolves because awareness has no past to defend and no future to fear. Reversing time does not mean revisiting old scenes or reliving youthful moments. That is memory pretending to heal itself. True reversal happens when attention withdraws from the storyline altogether. The moment you stop rehearsing who you were and how long you have lived, the nervous system relaxes. Muscles release patterns formed by years of unconscious tension. The breath deepens naturally. The body responds not to chronological age, but to the quality of attention inhabiting it. When awareness replaces memory as the center of identity, the body receives a different signal. It is no longer being reminded of limitation. Cells respond to environment, emotion, and perception more than to numbers on a calendar. When perception shifts from "I have lived long" to "I am here now," energy begins to move differently. Fatigue softens. Curiosity returns. The mind regains flexibility, and with it, a subtle sense of youth that has nothing to do with appearance and everything to do with presence. Memory keeps time alive by constantly referencing before and after. Awareness dissolves time by anchoring attention in immediacy. This is why moments of deep presence feel timeless. In such moments, people often forget their age, their worries, even their name. They feel light, spacious, and quietly joyful. These experiences are not escapes. They are glimpses of a more fundamental reality where identity is not chained to history. The practice of reversing time through awareness is simple but profound. Each time you notice the mind drifting into comparison, regret, or anticipation, you gently return attention to breath, sensation, or stillness. This return is not an effort to improve the past or control the future. It is a refusal to let memory dominate consciousness. Over time, this refusal becomes natural. Awareness begins to lead, and memory takes its rightful place as a tool rather than a master. As awareness stabilizes, the inner atmosphere changes. Life feels less hurried, less heavy. Actions become more fluid because they are no longer burdened by accumulated identity. You do not feel younger because you remember you feel younger because the sense of time loosens its grip. In this loosening, the body and mind rediscover a rhythm that is not measured in years, but in aliveness. Breath is the first rhythm you ever knew, and the last one that will leave you. Long before language, memory, or identity formed, breath established a silent pattern that linked the body to life itself. Every inhalation draws energy inward, every exhalation releases and softens. This simple movement carries an intelligence deeper than thought. When attention returns to the breath, the body remembers how to regulate itself without struggle. Numbers, when gently paired with breath, become more than mental markers. They turn into a quiet metronome that brings order to the inner world. The mind naturally seeks rhythm, yet modern life disrupts it with constant stimulation and uneven attention. Thoughts rush, emotions spike, and the nervous system forgets its own tempo. Breath restores this lost cadence. When you begin to count softly with each breath, the scattered mind gathers. Numbers slow thinking without suppressing it. They give the mind a simple task, preventing it from drifting into worry or recollection, while allowing deeper layers of awareness to emerge. Each number carries no meaning of its own, and that is precisely its power. Unlike words, numbers do not trigger stories. They pass through the mind cleanly, creating space rather than images. When synchronized with breath, they anchor attention in the present moment. Inhalation rises. A number is silently acknowledged. Exhalation falls. Another number follows. Over time, this pairing establishes a steady inner rhythm that the body recognizes as safe and familiar. As this rhythm settles, subtle changes begin to unfold. The heartbeat aligns more harmoniously with breathing. Muscular tension softens, not because it is commanded to relax, but because it is no longer being stimulated by mental noise. Thoughts slow naturally, like ripples fading on water. The mind does not fall asleep immediately. Instead, it enters a tranquil alertness, where awareness remains while agitation dissolves. Numbers also guide awareness gently inward. They act like stepping stones across a stream, allowing attention to cross from surface thought into deeper stillness without strain. When counting forward or backward, the sequence creates a sense of movement, yet the breath keeps this movement grounded in the body. This balance between progression and stillness mirrors the natural rhythm of inner life, which is neither frozen nor chaotic, but flowing and centered. With continued practice, breath and numbers begin to synchronize without effort. The counting becomes softer, sometimes fading altogether, while the rhythm remains. At this stage, awareness is no longer focused on the technique, but on the spaciousness it reveals. The inner world feels ordered, not rigid, calm, not dull, alive yet unhurried. This rhythm is not imposed, it is remembered. Beneath layers of habit and tension, the body knows how to move in harmony. Breath leads, numbers guide, and awareness listens. In this listening, the inner life regains a natural tempo, one that supports rest, clarity, and a deep sense of balance, that carries beyond the moment of practice, into the quiet depths of sleep. From early childhood, the sense of self slowly settles into the body. Sensations are named, movements are identified, and soon the body becomes me, rather than something experienced. As years pass, this identification grows stronger. Every ache is taken personally. Every change in appearance becomes a confirmation of age. Every fluctuation in energy is interpreted as decline. The body is treated not as a vehicle, but as an identity. This deep attachment quietly drains vitality, because awareness becomes confined to form rather than flowing through it. Youthful energy is not produced by the body alone, it is animated by attention. When attention is rigidly fixed on physical limitations, the body responds by tightening, slowing, and conserving. When attention loosens its grip and observes the body, rather than inhabiting it as an identity, something remarkable happens. The nervous system relaxes, the breath deepens, energy begins to circulate without obstruction. Detachment does not mean neglecting the body or denying its needs. It means releasing the belief that you are only what the body reports. In moments of deep absorption, watching a sunset, listening to music, or being fully present, people often forget the body entirely. During these moments, fatigue disappears, posture improves, and the face softens. This is not coincidence. It is the natural state of awareness when it is no longer compressed into physical self-consciousness. Youthfulness returns not because the body has changed, but because awareness has expanded beyond it. The body ages according to biological processes, but the sense of heaviness associated with aging comes largely from mental attachment. Constantly monitoring the body reinforces limitation. Subtle fear arises around loss of strength, speed, or appearance, and this fear contracts energy at a cellular level. When awareness steps back and becomes the observer rather than the occupant, fear loosens its hold. The body receives permission to function without being scrutinized. Detachment allows energy to move upward rather than stagnate. Instead of being pulled down by sensation and habit, awareness begins to circulate through breath, spine, and inner stillness. This circulation creates a feeling often described as lightness or freshness, qualities commonly associated with youth. The body responds to this inner climate by improving coordination, balance, and resilience. Muscles release unnecessary tension. Movements become smoother, not forced. This shift does not require effort. Effort reinforces identification. Detachment happens through gentle noticing. You observe sensations without naming them as problems. You notice fatigue without claiming it as your nature. You feel the body breathing, moving, resting, while remaining slightly apart from it. Over time, this space between awareness and sensation grows familiar. In that space, vitality quietly renews itself. Youthful energy is not a memory to be reclaimed, it is a byproduct of freedom. When awareness is no longer bound to the body's story, energy stops leaking into resistance and self-judgment. What remains is a simple aliveness, steady, calm, and quietly vibrant, that does not depend on age, strength, or appearance, but flows naturally from the act of witnessing rather than owning the body. Identity is not as solid as it appears. What you call who I am is often a collection of repeated thoughts, emotional reactions, and bodily habits reinforced day after day. Change feels difficult because identity feels permanent, but the subconscious rewires itself far more quickly than the conscious mind believes. 7 nights are enough to begin this shift because sleep is not passive rest, it is an active reorganization of the inner world. Each night, the mind reviews, rearranges, and reinforces whatever impressions were most alive before surrendering to rest. When the same intentional focus is brought into these final moments repeatedly, something fundamental starts to loosen. The subconscious begins to recognize a new reference point. Instead of anchoring identity in age, fatigue, limitation, or routine, it starts to anchor it in awareness, rhythm, and calm presence. The first night may feel subtle, almost ordinary. But a seed is planted. The mind listens. The body registers safety. The nervous system notes a different signal than it is used to receiving. By the second and third nights, resistance softens. The mind no longer questions the practice as much. It begins to cooperate rather than observe. Sleep deepens because the subconscious is no longer carrying unresolved tension into rest. Identity quietly shifts from doing to being. This alone conserves enormous energy. Much of what people call exhaustion is not physical, it is the effort of maintaining a rigid sense of self. As nights continue, vitality begins to return in unexpected ways. You may wake with a clearer head, lighter emotions, or a spontaneous sense of ease. These are not dramatic changes, but they are precise. The subconscious is learning a new pattern, and turns shape identity. When the inner dialogue changes at night, the tone of the following day follows naturally. Actions feel less forced. Reactions slow down. Awareness occupies more space than habit. By the fifth night, the body starts responding as if it has been given permission to restore itself. Muscles release more easily. Breathing becomes fuller. Energy no longer feels trapped in tension or anticipation. The identity of someone managing life gradually gives way to someone living life. This shift is subtle but powerful, because vitality flows where resistance ends. The seventh night carries a quiet threshold, not because 7 is magical, but because repetition stabilizes change. The subconscious now recognizes a familiar pathway. Awareness has been introduced repeatedly at the same vulnerable receptive moment. Identity loosens its grip on old definitions. Vitality is no longer borrowed from effort but arises from alignment. You may still recognize your responsibilities, your age, your role in the world, but they no longer define you from the inside. What rewires is not memory, but orientation. Attention turns inward rather than outward. Awareness becomes primary, and identity becomes flexible. Vitality follows this flexibility naturally, because energy moves best where there is space, not pressure. Over 7 nights, this space is gently created, night after night, until the inner system begins to operate from a quieter, freer center that no longer needs to announce itself to be felt.